Good afternoon, everybody. On behalf of all of us at YourStory and the entire Akamai team, I want to welcome you to the EdTech Conclave on the global opportunity for Indian EdTech innovation, powered by Akamai. The journey of EdTech startups in India has been a phenomenal coming-of-age story, starting with the meteoric rise of EduCom, educational computing, that eventually gave way to truly democratized EdTech platforms. Like other sectors of the economy, such as e-commerce, the education sector in India too offers great potential for leveraging technology to bring about innovation and disruption, not just in India, but also globally. We at YourStory have partnered with Akamai for this EdTech Conclave today. Akamai is a global leader in CDN, content delivery networks, and cybersecurity, and works with some of the largest e-learning companies and educational institutions globally. Some of the largest EdTech startups in India also leverage Akamai, and some of them are going to be at the conclave today. Most of you may be fully aware of Akamai's reputation and capabilities to deliver fast and secure digital experiences across industries. In the context of today's event, what we're going to discuss today is some of the trends in EdTech and e-learning, what to look out for in the future, and what are the priorities for the next stage of growth in this industry, along with Akamai's vantage point in this industry. So we shall wait to hear from all of you during the course of this agenda today. To kick off this EdTech conclave and to further explore India's EdTech global footprint, I'm very pleased to announce that the first fireside chat will be between YourStory's CEO and founder, Shraddha Sharma, and Ranjit Radhakrishnan, Chief Product Officer at BYJU'S, to deliberate on how EdTech can be India's next global export. Ranjit has built highly successfully products and businesses for India and global audiences with products like Hike Messenger and BYJU'S. His previous stints were at Cisco and Zinger. At BYJU'S, Ranjit leads the product vision, strategy, and execution. He has deep expertise in consumer internet, scaling products to millions of users, creating revenue streams, and many others. Over to you both now. Shraddha, please take over for moderating this panel. Thank you.
Thank you so much. EdTech is the sector that we are all hearing about, all of us, the numbers, and it's like one of the silver linings in the otherwise depression and the slow growth in the economy. The numbers are amazing, and BYJU'S is, of course, making noise, and for all the right reasons. The huge acquisition that happened recently, and also the numbers that you're seeing. Just want to get a sense from you, Ranjit, and you are, and for everyone's benefit, I know Ranjit, and he's one of the foremost product leaders that we have in the country. He's a deep thinker when it comes to product, and what we see in BYJU'S, the whole the product that they have, he's the man behind them. Doesn't like to be known so much publicly, but man of deep words. So Ranjit, tell us, what are you seeing when it comes to this growth? The numbers, that it's more than, I was speaking to BYJU'S, he said 13 million new students or more that you've seen during this pandemic. And what does it mean for your product, like for the whole BYJU'S platform?
Yeah, first to think about the last 4, 5, 6 months. Well, Shraddha, I think to say that it's an interesting time or it was an interesting period would be actually an understatement, right? Because it's what we believed would become the adoption rates or the exposure rates in say 3, 4 years just got accelerated in a very short span of time, right? And that was heartening for us to kind of see. Put a lot of pressure on us as a team because we wanted to kind of showcase a lot more of what the product could do in that short span of time because we had the parents' attention and the students' attention. So a few things happened at the time when the country went into lockdown. The schools were off for a temporary period of time, and students were looking for online sources that they could come by and kind of learn. It's been happening over the last 5 years. BYJU'S has scaled up. Multiple other tech players have scaled up. But now it became almost a necessity, right? Because a particular option that they had in terms of school education or tuition centers completely went out of the picture. So we saw a rapid period of growth from the perspective of number of students, parents combined together, coming by, exploring multiple edtech brands, options, products in a very short span of time, and trying to kind of figure out which one works for them. What is the real value of online learning? Does it work or not, right? Because 5 years ago, we were trying to create the market. We were trying to build a sense of, okay, online learning matters. There is value to be unlocked. And we had to evangelize and create the market. Right now, after 5 years, I think this specific period has helped us because it has hastened that entire education from the perspective of ensuring that the users really understand there is value to be unlocked in online learning. That got hastened. So 15 million users since the time that we went into lockdown. our engagement rates, not just the growth in terms of users coming by and trying out the application, but the time that they spend, right? Because there's no other option at this point of time. They spent in excess of 100 minutes every day, right? So all of that basically meant that we got a real opportunity to be able to showcase a product to a large set of users. We had a few items on a roadmap, which is essentially about ensuring that, okay, we add live classes, BYJU'S classes, what we kind of have formulated and called it right now. That was supposed to come by a few months later. But then once this kind of happened, we went into a huddle. We said, okay, we need to hasten the roadmap and push it out very quickly. In that sense, I think very happy about the fact that the team, the entire company kind of came together in that span of a couple of months to launch that product, which ensured that in addition to the asynchronous, comfortable learning that they have at their own convenience, we also had the discipline of a scheduled class where they could come by, attend the live classes, and also get the doubts and their other questions kind of answered. In some sense, I think very, very seismic moment for us in the edtech industry in India, because it just exposed us to the audience in a very large way.
You know, one can't be talking to you and not talking about White Hat Junior. and you know, all of us as entrepreneurs are thinking, wow, like 18 months and what a phenomenal exit. And just tell us about the company, because it also has audience in US and there are children in US who are subscribed to the platform. And from a sense today, BYJU'S, and BYJU'S always, whenever we have conversation, he's always saying that Indian startup multinational is that, it's what, you know, that's what he's looking at. How does that manifest in the product that you're building and with White Hat Junior getting added?
Yeah, so to answer that specific question, I think we'll go down to the vision of BYJU'S itself, right? Because we're very, very convinced of the fact that once we build a platform, the aspect of a learning platform or educational platform is that it does not need to be limited to a specific geography. We do believe that the innate nature of education and learning, math and science is universal. You might want to change it, change a few layers of the content to make it more culturally sensitive or appropriate or relevant to the context. You might have to tweak the syllabus here and there or the pedagogical constraint, but largely it's the same concepts that you're teaching, especially for the K-12 audience. And if you build a platform which is fairly engaging, understands how to kind of personalize, recommend the right learning path for you, and craft out journeys, there is no reason that it needs to be constrained by a specific geography. It can be scaled to across the world as well. So largely, we spent a lot of time in the first couple of years, first 2-3 years since we launched our online app, in adding more grades, in adding more subjects, right? Because it meant a lot more. It seemed logical to kind of say that we have a strong platform. It will evolve on multiple dimensions over a span of time, but we need to complete the value offering in terms of ensuring that beyond math and science, social studies, language learning, all of that, let that come into the platform, and more grades, right? Now we cater from age 4 to age 18, right? Very transformative age group. With that at the back of the mind, I think we were always conscious of the fact that our mission was to kind of get students ready for the future, to prepare for what the world holds for them, 10 years later, 15 years later, when they kind of go out as people who are, going to be employed, to be building out their own dreams. For that to happen, we are very, very aware of where the world is heading towards, where coding and understanding how, problem solving is done through system thinking is very, very important part of the skill set that the students need to have, in addition to math, science, and other curricular skills that they're picking out. So that was always part of our thought process. And then when you kind of found a company that was able to do this at scale, not just in India, but in US as well, that means that they've cracked the model to a large extent, right? We got a lot of confidence, not because that they kind of showcase the number in that span of time, but also because of the fact that it fit in with our philosophy and our vision as well. So in that sense, I think they've proven that in a very short span of time, and it fits in very nicely into our product portfolio essentially, and our overall product philosophy.
And if you had to, Ranjit, I have to ask you this, that if you had to evaluate independently the product which White Hat Junior, because you're the product guy, what do you think was different, what was unique? And of course they had the audience, of course they had the growth trajectory in a very short span, but what was right about the product?
Right, so from a product perspective, I can say, Shraddha, that a lot of the products, even within BYJU'S at this point of time, we've done a lot over the last 5 years, but we're all just skimming the surface of what is really possible in this field, right? We have moved on a few dimensions. We started off with videos, and then we started getting adaptive learning. We built out interactive questions and game-based learning, experiential learning. So all of those are dimensions on which we have been improving our product over a span of time. On those dimensions, we find that White Hat Junior has also made fair amount of progress, but there's a lot more to be done. Like even within BYJU'S and within White Hat Junior, on what can be done in the specific space, there's a lot more to be done. But those dimensions exist. The team understands the vision. They know where it can kind of go to, which means that they can move fast as well as something that they've showcased, right? So for us, that's been a very, very heartening fact, because you would see that back in 2015, we didn't even have a technology layer, right? As in, that's when we kind of launched our app and we moved really fast, even though there were other players who already had a tech platform out there. We've always indexed on speed and getting things out, testing it out and seeing what works and what doesn't work, and then scaling up the things that really work. So, and from that DNA perspective, we thought that White Hat kind of fits in from a team and culture perspective. And from a product perspective, they have these dimensions. We know that we have to kind of work together to expand on those dimensions going forward as well. But there is a long way to go from a product perspective for us to kind of further build out very interesting pieces.
Mm-hmm. How do you look at student feedback? How are you, how do you take the feedback? How are you capitalizing on the feedback? And of course, you have to tell me about how does cloud tech help here?
Yeah. Right. So as a product builder, I can tell you, having worked in multiple sectors, Shraddha, there's not been a more humbling experience than building for kids, right? As in this age group, as in transformative age group, 4 to 12, you got to listen to them. And because they are a lot more savvy in terms of what the needs are, they understand. No matter how much we feel as product builders that we understand how we were as kids, there's a generational shift, and there is a different paradigm in terms of how they kind of are consuming content. Beyond that, it's very difficult to kind of recollect, right? So we need to work with students. A lot of our content is co-created in the sense that we get early betas out to our students, to our parents to get the feedback in. A lot of our programs, be it the games that we kind of design, the simulations are co-created, right? Where kids come by, even in the prototyping phase itself, and they become part of that process, right? So we have been hearing our users to a very large extent. We've been using the feedback that we get. There are multiple touch points. We do a lot of user research and qualitative focus testing that happens within our concept stage to pre-production stage itself. And then beyond that, there is a mentor group that is closely in touch with our users, our parents, consistently kind of getting a lot of feedback, translating that and disseminating that to the larger organization so that we act on it. And then from a platform perspective, the way that we structure the entire platform, there's a knowledge graph, and then we are tracking everything that the child is doing from a learning perspective. So we understand the child's needs innately and very, very closely, which means that we can then structure learning journeys for them pretty easily, right? Lots to be done on that front. But the way that we've structured our entire product philosophy itself is to listen to the user, both from a qualitative fashion and from a quantitative fashion. And there is that philosophy that where from your concept stage on a specific idea or a feature or a product line to its eventual rollout, the students and the parents are part of that process.
Last, before I let you go, I have asked this to BYJU'S also in terms of opportunities, right? Like with the acquisition, I'm hoping that there'll be more and more acquisitions, but irrespective, EdTech sector is seeing an unprecedented boom in our country. And there are so many startups who are now looking at building stuff. What would be your advice to companies which are looking to build in EdTech space? What are some of the things that they should keep in mind when they start building?
Yeah, so I'll look at it from a couple of points of view, right? There are multiple stakeholders. For the students itself, I think figuring out newer dimensions of content format types, right? So we've been indexing, okay, if a child is a visual learner, okay, let's have this kind of content. And if it's a child who likes to kind of get a hands, so likes a hands-on experience, is more of an experiential thinker, then build out games and simulations. We're just about scratching the surface of these, but purely as a product builder, I can tell you there's a lot more that we can do. So companies which are innovating on different kinds of formats of teaching and learning will really do really well. The second bit is, like I think we have discussed this a couple of times. BYJU'S also mentions this. We are, from an after-school program perspective, we are very strong, but there is an opportunity for people to do things for schools as well, right? Schools have become, and the teachers and the school systems have become, in this 3-4 months, become very savvy about the fact that they need to be understanding technology and using technology to their advantage to bring about blended learning. So people who can help schools drive blended learning, where over and above what happens in the offline school ecosystem, if there's a touch point that exists beyond that in the after program thing that they can run at home, then there are strong value points to be unlocked, right? So companies which kind of be able to, if they're able to cater to either of these two different dimensions, I think they'll do really well. A lot of possibilities.
And one more question.
Sure.
Is that the scale which BYJU'S is seeing, and the scale and the numbers and the valuation and everything that BYJU'S is seeing, what and I keep on asking this to Baiju, and he has such amazing answers, and I keep pushing him to give the answer, like the real answer on what are some of the 2-3 things that you think is working in favor of BYJU'S, that it is seeing such an unprecedented growth besides the market. Yeah,
I think
growing.
the three teams coming together very closely, right? As in, we have not been a technology company alone. The company's DNA was very content heavy, pedagogy, fundamentally breaking down concepts. I think the company really understood that the onus of ensuring engagement and curiosity is the edtech company's responsibility, and not for the child to kind of figure out, right? I do believe that every edtech company has to ensure that the child wants to learn and enjoys the process of learning, and it cannot be for the self-driven audience and only for the motivated audience. So I think early enough our bets on engagement, on how we structure our content, how we use various formats to make it really, really fun for the child, because there's a high correlation between engagement and outcomes as well. And you have to drive the learning outcomes, but without the hook of engagement, you cannot drive the learning outcomes. So that has come by, and then I think we've used that messaging, the brand building that we've done out there. We put the product in the hands of a lot of users. At the end of the day, there is a need. And it's about education for the ecosystem out there, be it parents, students, or teachers, to understand there's value to be unlocked in online learning. And we have done that by putting the products in the hands of users. And once that's been done, I think the product speaks for itself and the business kind of comes in.
Okay, I've been told I can ask you one more question before I let you go. Ranjit, what do you enjoy about your role here in BYJU'S? You've been with Height, you built the product there, now you're here. What is it that keeps you going here?
Yeah, so I think one, I built a lot of products in the past, and I would not say any product made me as happy from the perspective of the impact that it made, right? 4 to 12th grade that we're talking about, 4-year-old from the age 4 to age 18. It's been a humbling experience as a product builder for me to really understand that audience, and they are the audience that's going to grow up and kind of consume a lot of other products as well, right? So as a product builder, I have been very selfish from the perspective of understanding this audience really well. It's not easy to design for them, and the pure impact of being able to make a positive impact on their lives, right? It's not about e-commerce. It's not about driving that much extra business out there. We know that business will come by, but being able to impact their lives in a positive fashion, because we've all gone through the education system and found out the drawbacks of it and felt it closely. It's close to our heart in that sense, right? So as a product builder, I have the canvas to be able to paint and make that impact, right? So I think that keeps me going out here at BYJU'S.
Well, okay. Thank you so much. Keep painting
so much.
And keep impacting. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot, Ranjit.
Thanks, Ranjit, for that very insightful discussion. For those of you who are joining in a bit late, we just heard from Shraddha Sharma, the founder and CEO of YourStory, and joining her was Ranjit Radhakrishnan, Chief Product Officer of BYJU'S. Shraddha, I like the term that you used a while ago, startup multinational. That is truly what BYJU'S is. And thank you, Ranjit, for sharing us all the hard work that goes behind delivering an experience at scale, not just millions of users, students, but also high quality educational interaction. Now let us turn to the second part of our session. We will now turn to hearing more about the Akamai advantage for EdTech startups. Joining us now is Deepa Singhal, Regional Vice President Sales, and also Asim Ahmed, Senior Product Manager for Cloud Security for Akamai. Both of them will deliver now a keynote address. Akamai, as you know, has been instrumental in shaping the internet for over 2 decades. It just turned 22 years old this past week. Happy birthday to Akamai. As the world relies more and more on the internet than ever before, Akamai is witnessing an enormous amount of traffic, but also at the same time, cybersecurity attacks of magnitudes unheard of. I personally have been following Akamai's story and journey for many years, so I'm very excited now to bring on Deepa and Asim to share with us some case studies, thought leadership frameworks on how they can help EdTech companies in the next phase of growth. So let us hear now on ensuring that learning never stops from Deepa and from Asim. Over to you, Deepa and Asim.
Thank you, Madan. Thank you for introduction. And hopefully all of you can hear me well. My name is Deepa Singhal, and I lead the business for Akamai in India and the subcontinent. And I'm joined by my colleague, Asim, who heads products for Asia Pacific and Japan. First of all, I want to say, Ranjit and Shraddha, thank you so much for the first session. I think, in fact, it was such a powerful story that's energized all of us. And that really makes me very excited to be here today. I know a number of you here today, whether it's the panelists of today or the audience here today, I think each one of you have really played a very, very pivotal role in transforming the learning sector for India. And I think you've enable learners to who are very heavily reliant on traditional offline methods to come online. So I really can't agree more with the slide here today. If Rupesh, you can transition to the next slide. Some of the headlines that we've made, as a consumer and as a working professional and a parent, I think one of my personal biggest adaptation to the new normal actually has been to adjust to the schooling pattern, right? The shift in the schooling pattern. And it's just amazing to see how students have been able to supplement their coursework with some of the products and platforms that you've all built, how you've enabled homeschooling in a number of ways. Right. First of all, my personal thanks goes to all of you here for that today. And if I think about it, like 1.6 billion learners across the globe, who were affected by school closures. And India alone, having at least about, 14 million higher education students, right, who are all impacted by the pandemic. And it's really amazing to see how platforms like yours have really made schooling and students be on track with their curriculums, right? Not only that, as I look to the impact that you all are having on professionals and young professionals, I think there's no other time where, the need to upskill yourself and to be relevant in the economy has been more important. So I think that's another amazing value that you all are delivering to India. Indian EdTech, perhaps has been the most exciting space to be in, not only because of relevance, but also because of the innovation that you all are driving, because of some of the funding, the acquisitions, the wins that we have seen. And really, if I think about it, I think you all here have the task of delivering this unique, uninterrupted learning experiences. And that too at a precedent of in the backdrop of such an unprecedented growth and demand, right? So if we can transition to the next slide, I think what is important for us to note today is that technology has really enabled and fueled some of the growth that we have seen thus far, right? We are in the new age of internet, and internet adoption has actually reached unthinkable levels, right? And if you look at data rates in India, which are some of the cheapest in the world, it's democratized internet, right? And just think about the power of this. With internet access being having reached far and wide in our country, democratizing the internet really gives an opportunity for us to take education and make it democratized as well. You already have the platforms that are ready to go. The pervasiveness of your apps, the ease of access to content, I think can bring millions and millions of users online, has already done that, and we can continue on that journey. But what I'm most excited about personally is that the opportunities that lie ahead, right? Especially with the pandemic, I do feel the consumption pattern has changed, for the better, right? So I spoke about my household, and I do feel like, we came online for students in education because of the pandemic, but we're here to stay, right? A lot of online learners will stick on. And if you look at that growth, and if you look at all the internet growth that we're seeing in tier 2, tier 3 cities, I think it presents a massive opportunity, right? So no matter what your growth levers are for the next wave of growth, whether you want to go to newer markets, acquire a global market, whether you want to go B2B, whether you want to go vernacular, whether you want to democratize learning by making it accessible to everyone, I think the importance of technology will only continue to grow, right? The only way that you'll be able to cope up with the opportunities as well as the surge in demand is by ensuring that your platform is available, it can scale, it's highly secure, and you can cater to the demands of users who come from any device. You can adapt to the changing network conditions, and you can fend off all the security threats, right? So that's going to be the focus of today's session. We really want to share with you some of the practical steps of how you can really achieve that scale, that security, and at the end of the day, derive a competitive advantage through technology. Understand your consumers, understand the consumer identities better, and therefore, gain a competitive advantage in this space. Next slide, please. So, before if you can just go back up a little bit, Rupesh, just a couple of slides back up. Yeah. What I wanted to share was that while EdTech is experiencing all of this growth, we in Akamai understand what it is like, right, to see that growth. Just one slide before, Rupesh. Much like y'all, the internet has been growing at a pace that's hard to fathom, and we're in the similar boat as well. Because we deliver about 30% of the world's internet, and because we have such a distributed architecture where at least 90% of the world's internet is just a hop away, people actually look to us to see how the pandemic has caused a change in the traffic pattern in the internet. How has security threats evolved, right? So clearly, if I have to put it simply, I think a year's worth of traffic growth has just happened overnight. Massive amount of workforce has shifted online. Schools, students have shifted online. So as we saw countries go under lockdown, starting from China to Europe to US to India, we just saw that direct surge in internet traffic as well. In our 22-year history, there's never been a time when Akamai's importance to the daily life and value has been more evident, right? Whether you take enabling work from home or e-learning or entertainment or banking or home deliveries, I think we've been able to power all of this during the pandemic. In fact, we've achieved a very special milestone. We've peaked about 100 terabits per second every day on a daily basis in the last few months. In fact, the average today is about 120 terabits per second. If I look at last year, this time, the peak traffic was only about 85 terabits per second, right? So massive amount of growth. And the reason we're able to do all of this is our edge landscape. What you're seeing here is our edge landscape. We have been ahead of the curve. We have a presence in about 4,000 locations and 300,000 servers. What's very, very important is that this intelligent edge platform helps us connect with about 1 billion devices on a daily basis. And we are delivering 4.6 trillion, internet requests each day. Last year, we were delivering about 2 trillion internet requests, and that's grown massively. Next slide, please. But what's more relevant for you all here in India is probably the platform that we're building here in India, right? India growth has been quite significant as well. World number 3, 83% growth. But we stay ahead of the curve here as well. We have a distributed, presence. We are present in about 300 locations and 46 cities. And I really thought it's important to call this because, in talking to some of you all, I know that a lot of you are looking at expanding to tier 3 cities and especially where network may not be very, very great, right? So all the functionality that you're building with your applications, with your products, if it has to reach the consumers, what you need is perhaps the edge. Right, and it's this edge that has actually helped us deliver some world records, whether it's the Cricket World Cup with 25 million concurrent users, or multiple such accomplishments. With this, we get a chance to work with all the leading companies here in India and across the world. We've partnered with customers right from a few thousands of users to millions of users now. For the EdTech vertical, we are delivering about 3 petabytes of traffic on a monthly basis here in India, and that is definitely expected to grow. Next slide, please. So, not only has the traffic grown massively, right? A lot of, people that I talk to ask us, how have attacks grown during the pandemic? Are there increased volume of attacks or are there decreased volume of attack? What kind of attacks are we seeing? What I can tell you is that definitely, along with traffic, the frequency, the size, and the sophistication of attacks have really grown massively. And if you think about it, while we all here are adapting to the new normal of working from home, the bad actors have actually been working remotely for a number of years now. So this is not new for them. And they've been waiting to prey on opportunities just like this. Right, business leaders such as yourselves and security professionals are very, very busy handling the disruption, right, handling the growth. And that's when they can exploit security vulnerabilities. As IT teams are really spending all of their resources on business continuity. What's left unattended is that many apps and APIs are left vulnerable. Right, so that has led to a significant increase in the attacks that we are seeing. Right, we see billions of these attacks on a regular basis. In fact, if I look at in the lockdown period itself, on June 4th, Akamai mitigated one of the largest and most complex DDoS attacks the internet has ever seen. It was a 1.44 terabits per second attack, and there were 9 different attack vectors in this. And it was a very complex one, which is not very common, right? And Akamai was able to mitigate this immediately. In fact, 85% of the attack was pre-mitigated. So security remains a very, very big focus area for us, though, scale, speed is important. Security is in the forefront. It's one of the fastest growing parts of our business because what you saw with our edge architecture, essentially we're using all of that data to protect our customers. We just, reached about $1 billion in our security business alone. And we hope to continue using all of the data to sort of prevent these attacks. So now what we want to pivot to is to talk about the relevance of security for EdTech vertical and how you all can gain a competitive advantage. And to talk about that, I'm going to call on Asim.
Thank you, Deepa. As you explained, we've definitely seen not just the surge of traffic, on the platform, because as we all know that pandemic has brought about the digital acceleration that nobody thought of. The organizations and the industries that were, in the journey of accelerating their digital transformation or trying to work towards that had to, overnight come up with strategies to bring the business online. You've also touched upon a very key observation, which is, during this pandemic situation, most of IT and security teams are thin stretched. A lot of focus is given on enabling business continuity, which leads kind of a shortcomings and some gaps that we see in security. So, one of the key things we see, in educational services as well is the growing trend of DDoS attacks. So as you explained, the highest DDoS mitigation that was targeted with a telecom service provider, but at the same time, we see continuous, attacks on different other industry verticals, including education. More so now because a lot of education models have become digital as we adopting, how to work in the pandemic situation. The attackers have been looking forward for this opportunity, right? Depending on kind of data the user profile might store or kind of architecture you have in place, it might lure attackers, to start targeting your application APIs and infrastructure as an example, right? So if you look at this graph here, you see the attacks, towards the bottom, which are 200 gigabit per second, and as you move more towards y-axis, you peak up to 100,000 gigabit per second. At the bottom, you see the frequency. These circles are very thin, very closely knitted, right? The reason being, these attacks are extremely common across all industry verticals. And for most of the organizations, including education today, they do not have the right resources or nor the architectures that can help them protect even at the level of maybe 200 gigabit per second. You're potentially talking about multiple data centers or multiple cloud service providers that might have to come at your rescue, because most of you would be using internet pipes today, which are going to be about 100 megs or maybe 200 megs or and so on. So even with a smallest attack that you see in the graph, it is usually sufficient to bring your websites and APIs offline. Let's move to the other slide, right? And not only the DDoS, we've seen a significant growth in application attacks. So, your APIs, your web interfaces, your websites, as an example. Now attackers know that the users and consumers are more online, and hence lies the opportunity for them to exploit. By connecting with them. So, Rupesh, if you can just go back a slide. Um, so we've seen a significant growth across verticals. If you see the gray area, that's where most of the education and the other non so-called targeted entities, because education, while we've seen growth in attacks, we still see financial services, commerce, and high tech being on the higher receiving sides. Now, it doesn't mean obviously that the education is not targeted as such. It just means that attackers have now shifted their attention to potentially a new sort of industry that they want to target to, something that they haven't really thought of in past as much. So now, why is this all coming at play, and where is it that we're seeing most of the attacks really, targeting the customers? We've seen with digital transformation, more and more services, products being, brought online. APIs continue to, draw adoption for the customers. Your mobile apps, your smart things ecosystem, right? All of that continuously work on the APIs. And API brings about their own security challenges. So many organizations that we speak with today do not really have strong security strategy on the API front. They might have some measures on protecting their, websites, as an example. They might be doing some sort of measures in protecting their infrastructure, as an example. But when it comes to APIs, this is still a bigger challenge for many organizations, including the top verticals like financial services, as an example. So you not only see attacks like DDoS or user data exfiltration, but you also see account takeover attacks being very common, where APIs get targeted 4 times more than the usual website and HTML pages. And the key thing to remember is that APIs bring their own security challenge. So it's not like if you've got a firewall in place to protect your network, it will be able to protect your APIs. APIs are deeply nested structures, which many firewalls cannot understand really. So you need to have the level of maturity in the products to understand how APIs really work, and to be able to mitigate and scale APIs at the right time, right? The other security measures that most of the organizations today fail to account for is, understanding their customer identities and the implication that comes with it. So while you have the user identities and you have the concept of hyper personalizing content for the users, collecting more and more data about the user interaction and touch points, at the same time, now many organizations face penalizations by not adhering to privacy laws across the globe. GDPR is a classic example. We've seen many organizations getting penalized if you do business with Europe Union. India, as you know, might have its own privacy law in a year or two. We're working on something like that. US has its own privacy laws, depend from states to states. So the user identities that you hold in your systems is extremely crucial to protect that data. And especially for EdTech, if you are capturing that information, for the age group of 4 to 18, you might not only be looking at the privacy aspect of the user data, but you might also be looking at the issues that come with the age, right? So if you are, let's say, less than 6 years of age, you may not be able to collect certain data. Or if you're collecting, you might not be really aware that it will have its repercussions with the privacy laws. So it becomes really important for you to think about user data privacy and maintaining identities at the scale. That's one of the crucial factors as your user acquisition rate grows and skyrockets. We've just heard millions of users getting added during a pandemic situation alone, which works out great for business, but at the same time your risk exposure is growing multifold, because you now really have to worry about not just securing your apps and APIs, but at the same time, you have to make sure that the user data remains really secure. Rupesh, next slide. So from what Akamai is able to deliver, as Deepa mentioned earlier, being the world's largest edge computing platform, we are able to not only provide you a scale where you can accelerate your digital journey, have better user acquisition, retention. Uh, uh, Obviously, we deliver that with a speed, but at the same time, we are able to secure your apps and APIs and your digital interaction with your users right from the point of origin of the request, right? So what that really means is, if today a user is initiating a connection from Delhi, it is very likely that the user is going to be mapped to an edge server which is located in Delhi, right? And instead of letting that connection traverse through all the way to the internet to deliver the content, we are able to deliver content right where it is closest to the user. At the same time, we are able to provide the security closest to the user and the attacker. So if the attackers are attacking you, let's say from Russia as an example, or some other geographies as an example, instead of letting all that attack traffic through to your network and your infrastructure where you have to pay for the ISP bills as well, we are able to defend against those security threats right from where it originates. Because as we just heard, Akamai network is present at any point of time closest to 90% of the internet users in the world. So they are just one hop away from our network. So just to summarize that, right, while we spoke about how it's really important to have a scale, agility in today's edtech systems, you also have to how to think for security right now, right? You need to make sure that the user data that you have remains protected, your apps and APIs remains absolutely secure. And we at Akamai are in a very unique position based on the platform that we provide. Thank you for listening to us. Back to you, Madan.
Thank you so much, Deepa and Asim. We just heard from Deepa and Asim of Akamai. Thank you for reminding our audience that digital performance is key for business success these days. But given the demands of traffic and the risks of security, you have to have trust, a trusted partner who you can work with, who can make sure you can deliver this experience at scale. Now we're going to switch to our next panel discussion for about 35-40 minutes. We're going to have an outstanding session. I'm going to invite Krishna, Vamsi, and Zishan to join us along with Shraddha Sharma. Speakers are going to be the EdTech leaders of the future who are right at the forefront of the action today. They are leveraging technology to scale up, to meet global expansion, reduce downtime, ensure multi-layered security, and improve user engagement and retention. First up, we have Krishna Kumar. Hi, Krishna. Krishna is the CEO of Simplilearn. Krishna is IT expert with a track record of successfully building new businesses and great places to work. He founded Simplilearn in 2010, so it's a 10-year anniversary coming up. He's grown up to become one of the largest professional certification training companies in India. Krishna's expertise lies in team building, strategy, operations, and product management. Joining us also is Vamsi Krishna. Hello, Vamsi. Vamsi is the co-founder and CEO of Vedantu. Vamsi is an IIT Bombay alumnus and he has been a teacher for more than 5 years. As CEO of Vedantu, he primarily looks after strategy and oversees critical functions like branding, marketing, and recruitment. Vedantu was on track to impact the lives of 250 million students. I'll repeat that, 250 million K-12 students in India with an educational platform focused on live, personalized learning for students. Welcome, Vamsi. Our third panelist is Zishan Hayat. Hi, Zishan. Zishan is the founder and CEO of Toppr. Toppr is an adaptive learning app for school students in the classes 5th to 12th standard, built with the wisdom to personalize learning. Before building Toppr in 2013, Zishan co-founded the phone commerce marketplace called Chowpatty Bazaar in 2008, which was later acquired by the Future Group. I'm glad to have all of you on board this panel, and to take the discussion ahead, let me once again invite Shraddha Sharma, the founder and CEO of YourStory, to take over. So Shraddha, we have with us Krishna, Vamsi, and Zishan. Over to you now. Thank you.
Thank you, Madan.
Thank you so much, Madan. You do it so well over and over again. So thanks for this wonderful introduction to all the entrepreneurs, to everyone who's watching this. We have, without mincing words, we have some of the best, not some of the best, some of the genuinely really best entrepreneurs from our country today. And the good news is that they're all in the edtech space, which is like the flavor of the season. We have all been hearing about it. But what is also amazing is that I have the privilege of knowing them, and all of them are, genuinely very good people. And I'm always excited to talk to them because good people building good business and doing very well. So thank you to all of you. I would begin by asking for everyone present. I'm sure everyone knows you, but if you could tell us, especially the last few months, what it has meant for your business. And in that, if you could also talk about what you're building and what you're doing. Yeah. So Krishna, should we start with you, or Zishan, or Vamsi?
Yeah, Shraddha, so I will start.
Yes,
Hello everyone, this is Krishna. I'm the founder and CEO of Simplilearn, and thanks Shraddha and YourStory team for inviting me to be part of this conference. So I think for us at Simplilearn, it's been business as usual. I think we were in EdTech even before this EdTech word was coined. I think at that time it used to be called training business. So I think at the beginning we had a lot of challenge in terms of hiring people, because people used to say, who works for training company, right? It's a small side show for trainers who want to earn some extra money. So I think in the last 10 years, of course, the world has changed, and it has changed in a totally different way in the last few months due to pandemic. So when it comes to our business, we are in the business of skilling professionals, and we do it across the globe. We have students pretty much everywhere in the world. And for Simplilearn in particular, 70% of our business is from outside India, 30% is in India, and people skill because they want to grow faster in their career. And you all know that there are skills where there is the huge demand-supply gap. So anyone who wants to learn those skills, obviously their employability and their pay scale increases dramatically. So that's the business that we are in. In the pandemic, what we saw two trends. One is that the existing users who had already enrolled for the courses, the time spent by them has also increased substantially. I think at our end that I was looking at data last month, on an average, users are spending 120% more time than what they used to spend in January. So, and it's pretty obvious because people have more time. They can't do a lot of things that they used to do in the past. So that's one trend that we saw, the existing users spending a lot of time. And we see a lot of demand from new users signing up for the courses. Now, in the beginning, when this whole lockdown and this pandemic started, there was a concern that at one end, there are people losing jobs. And on the other end, why will they spend money on doing courses? But we are all proven wrong. I think people are maybe the knowledge workers or the kind of audience that Simplilearn caters to, they are least impacted. I think India, you can see that most companies are still hiring. Even companies that are big time impacted, like think of travel and hospitality, those companies also are hiring in their tech and product and data teams, right? So I think there's no impact on their side. So we continue to see pretty good, strong trend. So I'll say that in a skilling business, it's more because people have time and hence they're spending that time online. It's less to do with something else. I think that's the trend that I see.
Thanks, Krishna. But one very important thing that you're saying is that despite of whatever we are hearing about job losses, there is a strong need and urge in your users for learning and upskilling, and that's happening in this time.
Yeah. If just another point that I'm sure you have more data point related to that. Look at companies, look at sectors which are big time impacted. Look at travel, look at say sharing economy, those kind of companies. Have you come across any news about any of those companies letting go any of their knowledge workers? Most of the layoffs has happened at entry level, like maybe entry level sales, entry level operations, but nothing has happened in the tech, product, analytics, and those kind of teams that we help people get into. I think most of them are still hiring in those teams, right? So you see the trend that these are really recession-proof career. If you really know data science, there's going to be demand. There was demand in the past, there is demand today, there will be demand in future, because simply there is so much needs to be done in that area. So we are seeing that kind of trend only accelerating, and more and more users looking to get into those areas.
Yeah, very true. And for everyone watching, at least I can say Postman, Zoom, Atlassian, and Book My Show in their product and tech team, they've all gone on record in the last few weeks to say that they are massively hiring, and here in India. Yeah. Okay.
I think Vamsi and all of us have tried targeting sectors which are not doing well, and we don't have so much of success hiring from. At least we don't have so much of success hiring from those sectors.
Vamsi, of course, is big in the news. He has raised such huge amount also, no? So I'm sure he must be hiring. Vamsi.
I think all of us are. Thanks, Shraddha. Thanks to the team for inviting us over. And as for Vedantu, we specialize in K-12 and in live tutoring space. What we do is we specialize in live interactive classes. So think of this as like how we are doing right now, happening on top of a great platform and interactive content. So this is what we do as a company and a product. Typically, cover all the subjects for all the the grades, right from 6 to 12 is where we were present. But now, given this whole pandemic and all, we recently launched our K5 division as well. So that's what we do. And for your question, Shraddha, on what changed pre and post pandemic, a lot of things. I was actually just trying to count some of those, but in a nutshell, I think all the metrics grew. We've been very lucky, all of us, right, in EdTech sector, that at least we are in a segment where it's been strong tailwinds, right, and almost like it's a contradiction to what it has done to some of the other sectors. So we are enjoying the tailwinds. Dantu, I think all our metrics grew almost like 5 times to 6 times of where we were in Feb. Traffic, core metrics of students taking a live class, paid students, subscription revenue, everything. And but I would also like to just point one thing which is important for also the audience to understand is EdTech traditionally also was growing fast. So that's something also which is important to qualify. Even before pandemic, we were always seeing a kind of a growth year on year. But yes, definitely what this has done is that 3x has gone up to probably a 5x success. So
EdTech is the sector. Yeah, just pandemic has made it bigger. EdTech was always big. Pandemic has made it noisier. Well, thanks, Vamsi. I'll come to you, Zishan. If you could please tell us what's happening.
Multiple things. So because the talent has become even more fluid with the pandemic, it's difficult to attract, hire, even retain your top talent, right? Like, so your engineers are very difficult to, like, you might assume that, oh, pandemic should get lots of people in the job market. Not true. Very tough to come by. So that's one change because talent has become fluid globally. Personally, at Topper's front, traffic exploded. Traffic hit this month. It's hitting 45 million sessions a month. It's humongous, right? Like 1 year ago, 1 year ago, traffic was 6 million sessions. It's 45 million sessions this month. Wouldn't have imagined this kind of traffic being available in India for EdTech. And it's on track for 100 million sessions. Should be 100 million sessions at this rate within a few months. Guessing that EdTech company can have 100 million sessions a month in traffic was impossible to imagine. Even e-commerce took so many years to get there. And on Toppr front, we went in a product overdrive, right? So we had our flagship learning app, which catered to 8 grades from 5th to 12th. We launched a Coding for Kids product. We launched a School OS for all schools to run online. So that covers 1st to 12th, and it covers 22 different school boards and 58 different exams for the schools to operate. And we launched a homework help app, and that just really took off, right? It hit like humongous numbers. It's hitting 2 million daily actives. So I would say for us, the lockdown was like a product overdrive. Now it's a full ecosystem of multiple apps surrounding the core user, which is the K-12 student for us.
Yeah. Zishan, when you were saying 45 million users, I got reminded yesterday, Deep Kalra we were talking to, and that's the sector, that's the opposite spectrum of the sectors you are in, right? Like the travel sector. And he was saying that one of the areas that they are looking at is ad tech. And I was thinking for all of you, ad tech would be a possibility with the kind of user base. You can give tough competition to the e-commerce companies. But anyways,
sure.
coming back to the EdTech, would love to understand from all of you, and especially in the wake of the news that we've all seen, ByteDance Junior getting acquired by BYJU'S, and now the ambition of Indian companies to go global. What do you think, as you build your ventures, would it take to build a very strong Indian EdTech play across the world? And what are some of the things that you are thinking about your business as you are looking at the international market, if you are, and what are some of the areas that you're looking at? And how do you think India, the Atmanirbhar India, can become a very strong multinational EdTech play from India?
Yes, Shraddha, I'll go first here.
Huh.
So 70% of our business is already outside India. See, in our space, which is skilling space, I think that Indian companies will emerge as a winner. What we saw in the IT services world, like if you look at the top 10 IT services company, 5-6 of them are Indians. Like the think of Infosys, Wipro, TCS, all of them are top 10 companies, and anywhere you go, they are always there on the board. Whenever somebody is thinking about large transformation deal, I think when it comes to skilling, something similar is going to happen, and we already see the trend happening. I'll just give you an example. Now a new trend has emerged in the skilling space, which is that co-create courses with leading universities, right? So when you co-create a course with a leading university, let's say someone is in California and they want to take a data science course, whether Simplilearn gives them a Berkeley course or one of my local competition gives them a Berkeley course, as long as it's Berkeley course, it doesn't matter to them, right? And we already see that trend happening, right? We work with MIT, we work with Caltech, we work with Purdue. We're adding a couple of more universities of that league to our portfolio, and we see huge traction in those courses. Now, if I'm offering those courses in global market, my ability to become more competitive is much better than someone who's trying to produce the same courses locally. So we already see this trend happening. I think there are a couple of Indian players who are already doing pretty well in US market, and we see this trend going to accelerate in a big way. So the short answer is that 3 years down the line, this might not be a question. You will already see that this will become quite a well-established trend.
Yeah. But I also have this question, and maybe Vamsi, you could address this. That one of the big things in favor of India is that our domestic market in itself is so huge, right? And it is growing, and we are just at the tip of the market. So how do you then look at the Indian domestic market, and how do you then look at the global play?
No, that's a very that's a very fundamental question, and I think it's a question we actually ponder on quite frequently. Now, as you yourself said, given all the when you get funds, you're all also gets bombarded with ye bhi kar lete hain, wo bhi kar lete hain. So it's also very easy to get spread thin and do 10 things, but we try to avoid that. So how we think about it is simply, Shraddha, is we look at where are you positioned in terms of the overall market, what is the total market size itself, and where are you, right? And are you the most dominant player? And is your room to further increase is almost like you're going to hit the wall. When we analyze ourselves in all these parameters, I mean, we are nowhere, I mean, it's remotely there, right? So hence, it makes all the more sense for us to focus on where we are. That's what the strategy we clearly follow. Really go deep and get your head down and execute, and try to get as many students, more and more students, from offline to online, and get them to take a class and take a serious offering. So yeah, I mean, it's I mean, all of us combined, I think in K-12 alone, I think would be less than 3%, and 3% is also like I'm like giving benefit here.
I think closer to 1%, but yeah,
I think probably 1.4. Yeah, exactly. So 3% itself is double of probably where we are all. So I think to that point, there is a huge scope. But having said that, I think the opportunity also is there, because given Indian teachers, the cost of that and the language of that, I do believe in a long term, and that's one of my visions, strong visions, that I do see India becoming a global teaching powerhouse. Let me put it in that way. Given the skill set we have, and also the language and the cost. And so even today, without doing anything, it happens on Vedantu. Students from 48 countries study live on Vedantu, even today, right? And we don't do nothing. It's just references and some other relatives coming in apparently they feel that Indian teachers are amazing at math. So they really want their kids to study math with Indian teachers. And all that stuff is naturally happening. But yes, in terms of scope in India alone, is huge market. And yeah, it's I think at least like 4-5 years more also will be just touching the tip of the iceberg.
But do you have any focused plan to expand, like in the next coming years?
So especially the new division which we have taken, which is the K5. In that K5, we have not launched any curriculum specific courses there, right? So we have launched with coding, we have launched with the reading, and math is coming up, right? It's already launched, it's there in the beta. So all this is not curriculum based. So some of it has naturally a global appeal, right? There are already strong, demand coming in from, let's say, Singapore or a US. So there we might think about, but yeah, I mean, it's going to be just restricted to probably that segment.
Yeah. Okay. Zishan?
I would say K-12 companies have a very, very deep market in India, and it would be unnecessary to look beyond India for the next 3, 4, 5 years. It's absolutely not necessary. In fact, the Indian market is actually much more lucrative than other markets, right? So you don't see, except for China, you don't see any other market that is as focused on after school learning and willing to pay. So even the US with significantly higher purchasing power is not focused on paying for after school learning in the schooling. It's also a mindset issue, but I would just say focused on the India market. Yes, there will be small opportunities of doing a very technical app, and it can go global, right? If you build something very specific around, for example, a doubt solving app, image recognition based, and it's got very thin layer, can go global fairly quickly, but it will also be very competitive, right? There will be another app that will do the same, and it will be a war of the engineers throughout.
Yeah. One question, like many people have asked this, and I want to ask all of you, this has come repeatedly, is how, is that how many of these transformations, this growth in numbers, do you see the last post-pandemic? Or is it just like a growth which is being fueled because of the pandemic?
So I'll probably take that up, and I'm sure Zishan also shared a few numbers recently, and I think I completely second that. As I've been telling Shraddha, we did obviously benefit from the pandemic, and it's natural, right? Because all the schools were almost shut down for the first half. Offline tuitions, the tutoring and the coaching centers are like literally practically shut off. So all the school teachers, principals, and everyone talking about online education. All of this obviously not just improves the brand awareness, but also there's no other option. Students have to come and do this. So naturally there is the increase. But I would really want to qualify that as EdTech, we have been seeing this trend even before pandemic, almost like it's a massive 3x kind of an increase we have seen on all core metrics, including traffic. We internally measure with Vedantu, students attending a live class. That has gone through almost a 4x increase year on year. For the last 1.5, 2 years, we have seen that. This pandemic, what it has done is it's accelerated. So something which I had probably in my projections, I've thought about, okay, I'll be there for probably April 21. That probably happened now. So in terms of we just crossed 1.1 million students attending a live class last month, right? So that in my mind was probably around next year, around April, mid of next year. So that happened. So yes, that acceleration has really come. But even without that, if this would not have happened, let me put it in this way, this would not have happened. The same thing, the same metrics, the same everything would have happened probably by April of next year, right? And that's what I believe. And yeah.
Like you've always mentioned, right? Like the growth was anyways happening before pandemic also. Yeah.
Absolutely. If you grow at 100% year on year, you are a super slow company in EdTech. So pre-pandemic.
Zishan, this is the headline.
Zishan is creating a complex for all of us.
That's like the headline.
I kind of loved it actually. So it's like an amazing headline. Yeah.
It's like a performance pressure for all the other EdTech companies.
So everyone has to be a topper now. So like the 100% doesn't just started.
Krishna, I want to ask you this question. You said 70% of your market is outside India. It's not easy, but you've done that. And if you have to tell people watching you, how have you been able to give us some insight into some secrets? No, like how have you done this? And don't tell me it's just the cost.
No, so it's not really the cost. See, unlike K-12, where India is really a big market, millions and millions of students in India going through schooling and after schooling. In our space, which is skilling, if you just look at the whole addressable market, it's not that big. And when I say it's not that big, if you look at the total number of registered LinkedIn users in India, it's roughly about 50 million. So that in a way becomes your overall universe of people that you can target with the skilling courses, right? That becomes a bigger.
So Deshanto has that number. He has whole LinkedIn in 1 month.
Yeah. So what we had done from day one was that we always focused on courses that appeal to audience who are looking to fast track their career. And if someone is learning, let's say, data science, whether in Bangalore or in Boston or anywhere in the world, is the same concept, right? And when it comes to technology, India already has a pretty good brand name. Look at some of the large technology companies. Look at their global CEOs. It's owned by all Indians. So even if there is an India annotation to anything that you are doing in technology space, it's considered to be plus. It's not considered to be minus. So that's what worked in our favor from day one. And whether you say it, whatever, the skilling as a space has also not attracted a lot of capital, right? Since it has not attracted a lot of capital, most companies have built the business by being very, very, I will say, being in a positive unit economist way, right? That we have to make money, and then only you can go and spend that money to acquire our next user. So our metrics are not that, okay, how many users are coming to our platform, what is the traffic that is coming to our platform. Our number one metrics is what is the money that I'm making this month. So when you start looking at that as your constraint, you start figuring it out. Where do you get your users in the most profitable way, right? And courses on a platform like Simplilearn, the price in India versus the price in developed market is 3x at least, if not more. So obviously, you get your ability to acquire customer and it becomes better in those markets because you go and charge them a higher price. So that is what has skewed that business in that direction. And now that this new model has emerged, wherein a lot of leading universities, both India and US, they are willing to collaborate with us. Earlier, they used to think of us as an outcast, right? That, okay, you guys are doing some sideshow, don't talk to us. You are not doing anything for the education business. You are just getting it down. But now suddenly they realize that we complement each other. While they have strong brand, we have ability to provide them the reach. We have ability to add a lot of tutors who can add to what they do. So that model has suddenly made even big. I'll say it has helped us in a big way in establishing ourselves, right? Because now once you get associated with a very strong brand, it evolved that way because it was profitable to acquire customers outside India because our price points are higher. So ability to spend on acquiring customers are higher. So that's how this business got built up. But in the last, I'd say, year or so, where we saw this trend that you can co-create and collaborate with leading universities and create courses, I think that provided us much higher growth rate, because now whether you are an India-owned company or whether you are a China-owned company or a US-owned company, it doesn't matter much, right? What matters is that your course is in collaboration with whom and does it serve the purpose or not. So with that, we've seen pretty good growth. I think the last few months, we are seeing our business literally doubling every second month in those markets. So
Krishna, I have to go on record and say that you built a profitable business. Startup ecosystem में उतना सुना नहीं जाता है, मगर आपने बनाया है.
But actually, Shraddha, I also wanted to call you now that people are already looking at only metric, that there are 3 scaling companies in India, and all of them are on a path to get to 1,000 crore annual revenue. It's a matter of some of them will get there in 4 quarters, some of them will go there in maybe in 6 or 7 quarters. So, and all of them are doing it profitably. So I think there are people making money in this business too, and I'm sure a lot of other companies will make money too.
Yeah, but you take the compliment now, which I'm giving you.
Okay.
that you have put so much of hard work and you built a profitable business, and you should be the headline every day, because that's the role model the startup ecosystem also needs. Yeah, it's not just about raising money. But anyways, last question to all of you. If you had to give an advice, and not advice, but just an input from the trenches, you build fantastic businesses that in EdTech, agar khada karna hai, sustainable, strong business, what is that one thing that entrepreneurs, people should look at doing?
If you can drive engagement, because EdTech companies are voluntary, it's not forced like schools, right? So it's voluntary. And studying is not the first choice of a kid. Like you want to go out play, you want to play video games, you want to WhatsApp, Snapchat. So studying is definitely 5th or 6th on your list. So it's a fairly voluntary activity. And in that activity, if you can drive engagement, the rest will follow. I think engagement, like hunt for engagement, and the rest will follow.
Well,
my advice to Shraddha is that you should try to answer for yourself that why do you want to do that, right? If there are few things that you are really interested in and you want to build a business around that, I think there are a lot of opportunity. Like for example, one opportunity is that a lot of kids love listening to stories, right? There can be a tech company just about which tells stories to the kids, right, and helps them become a storyteller. So like that, there are so many opportunities. There are opportunity to teach them music. There is opportunity to teach them so many different things. I think eventually we'll have this vertical focus at tech companies also, like something doing one thing but being the best in that thing across the world. So a lot of such opportunity will emerge.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, in fact, I'll just second to that what Krishna said. I think focus is very important. So I think keeping what I would say is the student centricity is the most critical part, right? It's very easy to get lost in education because there's so much to do. So in fact, what this Krishna just said, I think keeping student or the child at the center, or the student at the center, the learner at the center, and then being very, very focused about, doing some one thing, but doing this very deep and proper, right? So that would be my advice, because most of the cases, what I see is people get excited with the possibilities in education. There are actually many, and we need all of them. But one person or one company at the start doing all of that tends to lose focus, and all of this is obviously coming from our own mistakes, right? So I think that's one thing, and I think long term is very important. Education like kuch bhi time lagta hai, right? So I think whoever is coming in needs to have that long term mindset.
Yeah, so I'm summing it up: engagement, vertical based focus, and then there's a lot of opportunity in vertical. In storytelling, I might copy your ideas. Third is user centricity and thinking long term.
I have 2 customers for that. To start this kid story, you start this kid storytelling. I have 2 customers. Both my sons are big time into story. So if anyone starts, they are the customers ready to pay.
Okay, done. I'm taking you up on this. But thank you so much. There's so much of learning, and always talking is so much of insight and learning. Thanks a lot to all of you for joining today, Vishan, Vamsi, and Krishna. Thank you. Very generous to come and share things. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Shraddha.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shraddha. We have a lot of questions from the audience. Hang on, guys. Don't leave yet. Okay. We're going to do a quick rapid fire round of questions. Shraddha, there's a question for you also. So you also please don't leave. So rapid fire, guys, means only 1 or 2 sentences. Okay. So first question to Krishna. Are you going to do anything in the agriculture sector?
What should I do? Somebody
skills for professionals. Upskilling for people in the agriculture sector, teach them to do raw products to productification, those kinds of things.
I can say that it's a good business. Somebody should definitely do it. I think government will also support it.
That's okay. Vamsi.
I think
sorry. Do we also have Ranjit?
So related point there, home. There used to be a channel called Krishi Darshan. Okay, there are still watchers for that, but it's so boring. Somebody can build a better Krishi Darshan.
Let me ask Vamsi this question. Vamsi, are you going to do anything for personal coaching, one-on-one personal coaching for students, or it's only classroom kind of engagement?
Oh, we do have one-on-one coaching, one-on-one teaching as well today, as we speak. We do that.
Okay, Zishan, question for you. Are you doing anything for practice? Students are getting instruction, but are you helping them with practice of concepts?
That's ironic because Toppr is a practice app, right? Like Toppr started with practice.
Got it.
Even
But
today,
what new things are you doing? What new innovations are you doing in practice?
I mean, I think Topper's practice is the most sophisticated practice app already out there, right? Like we have 850 million attempts on that.
Wow.
I mean, it's a humongous number. Any tech entrepreneur will understand that for kids to practice 850 million times on your app is a privilege. So
Zishan, are you doing anything for specially enabled kids with special needs, special abilities?
Unfortunately, no. I read that question in the chat box, but right now we don't have any features that help specially abled children to learn better.
Vamsi, there is a big digital divide in India. Are you doing anything to help poorer children who may have problems with device, bandwidth, and so on?
Well, I mean, not just me, all of us. So EdTech is basically doing that. So all the technology, all the innovations, all the investments is basically to optimize it and get that amazing teaching to as fast and precise as possible, right? You do need to have a device. We can't do anything for non-device, but if there's any basic device, we are optimizing everything so that it can run on that device at the lowest bandwidth possible.
Actually, Madan, I want to take that also. Look, in an EdTech platform, the content is same for like the richest kid or the poorest kid. Okay, first of all, and the chances of somebody hitting your platform is higher than the chances of him hitting a average or a high quality school. So look at it from the other side. A student's chance of hitting EdTech platform and getting the highest quality content on day one are much higher than them ever hitting a good or a high quality school. So if you look at it from that side, we are already starting with a huge advantage.
Okay, question for all of you in one sentence or less. What are you doing in the vernacular market? What are your growth prospects for vernacular content? Zishan, you want to go first?
Volume immediate, monetization later.
Vamsi, vernacular market?
We are first launching through outside channels like YouTube and looking at traction there, and then probably getting down that to a paid usage. Freemium model, free then paid.
Krishna, vernacular content?
We are not doing anything. We are building global business, so only English.
Okay, one question for all of you now. NEP, new education policy. What's your reaction to that? How is it going to affect you? What are the tailwinds, headwinds? Krishna?
I think it's a great policy. It depends upon how they implement it, but I am very hopeful that it will create a lot of opportunity. The whole focus on skilling, the focus on not having a big chunk, right? You can take a break and you can start again and then join again. I think it's a great policy. I'm looking forward to its implementation. It will help create increase the EdTech market in a really big way. Then there's another big thing that they've allowed is that now you can offer full-fledged degrees online. Like one of the next logical thing can be that why can't platforms like Vedantu and Toppr become school also, right? Why should we go study on Toppr and Vedantu and then go to your school also, right? There should be option, and it's going to be great for the poor kids, right, who can't afford maybe schooling, but they can get taught by the best teachers from their home, maybe at 1/10 the price that they have to pay to a local English medium school. So so if that also happens, is great.
Okay, Vamsi, NEP comments?
I mean, we are waiting and watching. Good potential, good to see focus, but need to wait and watch.
Which one? For what?
NEP.
NEP.
Zishan,
Not a political
NEP?
answer.
Madan, very hopeful of NEP. Everyone will have to change. Of all the people that will have to change because of NEP, I think tech startups or EdTech startups are best placed for that change because they are the most agile organizations today. Amongst all the education organizations, the tech startups are most agile. So will be the fastest.
Shraddha, question for you. Oh, sorry. Shraddha, question for you. Organic growth or inorganic growth? You've seen so many startup stories over the years, especially now. Companies are getting bought, companies are buying each other, they are merging. Some are choosing to go the independent route, some are going the acquisition route. Any thoughts, comments, tips?
It sounds very cliched, but Madan, I'm a very firm believer कि अच्छे लोग ना जीतते हैं. Time लगता है मगर वो जीतते हैं. And I've seen very fly by the night who make huge news, and I've seen in the last 12 years they disappear with time. So long-lasting success comes to good people with good behavior, and by good behavior, building the business in the right way. I'm a huge fan of that. So organic or inorganic, whatever.
Thank you so much, Shraddha. Thanks, Zishan. Thanks, Vamsi. Thanks, Krishna. Thanks to all our speakers from Akamai before this. Thanks especially to the audience. I can see, wow, 45 questions. We got through only about 7 or 8. We tried to cluster them and answer some of them. But I think we're going to sort of copy paste all these questions and we can share them with our speakers later, and maybe we can get some responses in future articles. This is, after all, your story. The event doesn't end with this forum. It carries on online on the YourStory platform. So thanks everyone. It's a Friday evening, so we've had fantastic food for thought. Let's go ahead and get some food, some chai and coffee and some snacks after this. Thanks once again to our friends from Akamai, and have a very good day. Have a good weekend ahead. Cheers, guys. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Sean.
Bye.